and right after everything that happened in the first season, which will be in the pinned comment. The 6th Squad's Demon Defense Forces are informed about the disappearance of people in Sapporo. That said, they decide to send a research group to Mato, as they notice that the number of shukes is increasing considerably, which in turn requires them to proceed with the mission cautiously. Meanwhile, in the 7th Squad's dormitory, Yuki prepares for another successful day at his dormitory job until suddenly, Lamari approaches him and throws her clothes at him, ordering him to wash them. That said, she turns her back to leave, but then turns around again and asks him to prepare some ramen for breakfast. Later, Mei approaches Yuki with the problem. She asks him to help her check her supplies. While he's helping her, Yuki is interrupted by Choco, who approaches him to annoy him, asking for an unscheduled massage. He obeys and begins the massage session, while Choco compliments his hands, saying Yuki's massage feels heavenly. However, during the massage, Yuki notices her in her giant form. So, I ask why she's acting like that, and Choco says that he can hit her pressure points more easily that way, and suddenly, Yuki is interrupted again, this time by Lamari, who starts complaining about him mixing up her underwear with Chocho's and going back to Mei. She asks for help with her homework. This happens again, but because he's still busy with other tasks, he asks her to wait a few minutes. And later, Yuki goes to train alongside Kyuka, but before he can start training, he receives an emergency alert and discovers that there are 8 civilians trapped in the woods, but only 2 of them haven't been located yet, and this doesn't even put his skill to use to better understand what's happening around him. Having done that, she discovers that there is a Shuki lair in the neighborhood, and as they continue through the woods, they locate the 2 missing people. Lamari then drives past them to rescue them, while Choco stays behind to test her strength against Shuki, until suddenly Azuma, Tenki, and Sahara also join the fight. At that moment, a gigantic Shuki appears on the scene, so Yuki decides to take the lead from there, because if he wants to save his sister, Yuki needs to prove he's capable of doing it. Hearing that look of determination in the boy's eyes, Kyuka motivates him even more, saying she wants to see the fruits of all the training he's done so far. But in the first few seconds of combat, Yuki is crushed by the Shuki, who doesn't manage to escape very easily. Kyuka then realizes it's time to crush the enemy, so she cuts the Shuki in half. After all this commotion, at another moment, Yuki informs Yuki that the civilians have already been sent back to the real world unharmed. Hearing this, Yuki is happy with the news, while Kyuka rewards Yuki for his work in the bush, but questions why he always asks for such obscene rewards. At that point, Yuki explains the misunderstanding and makes it clear that she doesn't want to do those things willingly. But upon hearing this, Kyuka says that when she enslaved Shukis, they were satisfied with just a piece of meat, but unlike them, Yuki always wants that kind of reward. Something that leaves Kyuka slightly annoyed, but at the same time over time, she realizes that she also benefited from their relationship. After all, the stronger Yuki becomes, the greater their tactical arsenal grows. Furthermore, Kyuka believes that with Yuki by her side, she could even rise to the position of Supreme Commander. If she manages to assume this post, Kyuka could even restructure the demonic defense force, potentially exposing the secrets of Anu Boreal, and I see that she would be capable of doing all of that. Yuki notes that they could even save his sister if Kyuka were to become Supreme Commander. But beyond that, she says she could find a way to return the humans who became shocked to normal, and I see that they have such an advantage. Yuki says she will do everything in her power to help Kyuka reach the position of Supreme Commander, so that they can save his sister, and so that he can satisfy Kyuka. Meanwhile, Tenka talks to Aoba about Yuki, saying that he seems to be an excellent caretaker, as everyone says, and regarding his combat prowess. Tenka notes that Yuki has improved since the last time they saw each other. As for Alba's brothers, they thank Tenka for bringing them more food, since she is always helping everyone in that region. Seeing this, Aoba also thanks Tenka for her help, saying that she must really suffer a lot to be able to help them, since she is part of the demonic defense force. As for Tenka, she makes it clear that Aoba and her brothers don't need to thank her or anything like that. But Aoba still thanks her. Seeing that it's almost time for her meeting, Tenka decides to hurry, but before she leaves, Aoba asks more about this meeting. Tenka has to explain that there will soon be a meeting with the other commanders to find out about the gods, and hearing about the gods reminds Aoba of the worst part of. The text discusses the events surrounding the kidnapping of Neon and Kuko by the gods, and the Tenka incident. It mentions the summons Yuki received from the Supreme Commander. Yuki, already in the 10th Squad dormitory, asks Ryuka why the Supreme Commander is so interested in speaking with him. Ryuka claims she doesn't know anything about it either, but suggests Yuki avoid eye contact with Supreme Commander Yamashiro. Yuki is confused and asked if this relates to any of her abilities. Ryuka denies it, but makes it clear things could get complicated if Yamashiro likes Yuki. Suddenly, Mira, commander of the 2nd Squad, appears and congratulates Ryuka for avenging her hometown, but simultaneously declares she is much stronger. Mira then declares she will be the next Supreme Commander of the Alia. Ryuka counters this, stating that she will be the next Supreme Commander. Meanwhile, Yuki remains silent. From afar, she merely observes the intimidating energy the two exude until suddenly Mira sees her gaze. directed at Yuki, and says that their days are numbered. But right after saying something intimidating to the boy, Mira becomes worried upon seeing their shoelaces tied, so she ties the shoelace for the boy. And at that moment, Yuki begins to inspect his uniform from end to end. Afraid that something might be out of place and moving forward, Ryuka encounters Senna on the path and asks if she's going to the conference room. Senna is unable to answer because she's still crying over what happened to the 3rd Squadron. Torn apart by the enemy, Senna says he has a stomach ache and therefore cannot attend the meeting. Upon arriving in the room where the other commanders are, Yuki is shocked to see so many important people gathered in one place. Suddenly, Yamashiro herself floats into the room. Upon seeing her, Yuki remembers Ryuka's advice not to look directly at her, but he decides to break that rule, believing that a quick glance won't kill him or anything like that. However, upon seeing her, Yuki is startled by the commander's menacing gaze. Yamashiro decides to begin the meeting, and Ryu, the commander of the 1st Squad, informs everyone that she is leaving her post. The vicar Mira advises her to continue in her position, but Ryu says that young people are more suitable for the role, something that no longer suits her due to her age. Continuing with the meeting, one of the commanders introduces herself as Konomi Tatara and says, even though she is very young, she is willing to roll up her sleeves and do whatever needs to be done. And the vicar Ryu says that Konomi was his star student who underwent rigorous training. Therefore, he guarantees that the girl will be a competent commander. Meanwhile, Yamashiro tells everyone that she intends to continue in her position as Supreme Commander. But as soon as the vicar says so, Mira gets angry and says that she will be the next Supreme Commander. Immediately afterward, Ryuka says that she also has the same intention, and Yamashiro becomes anxious seeing the commander's enthusiasm. Seeing that she is taking the meeting in good humor, Yuki realizes that Yamashiro manages to convey a good energy of a friendly and intimidating person. At the same time, something that intrigues him. Continuing with the meeting, Yamashiro comments on their enemies, in this case, the 8 Thunder Gods, and although it is striking, they simply want to end all of humanity. But even if they want that, Yamashiro makes it clear that none of these gods are a match for theirs. Commanders, and moving on to the next topic of the meeting, Yamashiro asks to speak briefly with Yuki, but in the middle of the conversation, they are interrupted by Gina, who approaches Yamashiro to inform her about a horde of Shuki heading towards the meeting place. Seeing that the demons are trying to attack her Kijia, Yamashiro becomes irritated and says she will personally punish the leader of that Shuki army. Meanwhile, she encounters the 2 foreigners behind the Shuki operation and discovers that their plan was to kill all the commanders by exploding them. However, they failed in their attack. They then try to attack in various other ways, but Yamashiro manages to evade all attempts. During a pause in the combat, Yamashiro asks Yuki to return to his human form, then says she finds him a fascinating young man. Having said that, she asks to see the reward Yuki usually receives after obeying Ryuka's orders. And seeing that the boy only needs a somewhat perverted caress as the reward, she approaches Yuki and extends her hand to him so she can use the ability. Look, you're going to get into big trouble. You better stop this. But who am I to warn you? I want to see the circus catch fire, so leave a like, subscribe if you want part 2, which I'll definitely bring you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.